Michael, honey!
From a childbirth video found in my husband's room, I heard a voice calling a name.
Please, hold my hand, hold it.
You can do it, Emily. What? That voice. My husband? What is this? Michael, is it him?
Susan!
I didn't even realize my mother-in-law, Susan, was right behind me. May, put this DVD back where you found it for now. We need to look into this. My name is May Irwin. I live in a small town in Nebraska, a 30-year-old part-time housewife. I married Michael 3 years ago. I came to this well-known large house in the area. My parents-in-law, who lost their parents early, are kind to me as if they were my own parents. I'm still working, but I plan to quit once I have a child and focus on parenting for a while. But, having a child has been difficult. I have an idea why. However, even to bring up that reason, the timing has been tough for us. Still, I shouldn't rely too much on the kindness of my parents-in-law, so I did what I could to try to conceive. Checking with the gynecologist to see if there's anything wrong with me, understanding my fertile days, and then approaching Michael for intimate times in a way he wouldn't dislike. But after all, that's only what I can do. After all, having a child requires cooperation from both spouses. But Michael, he's either always home late or often on business trips. Given his job, I understand. I work too, after all. But as the days go on, my nights become restless. Going to bed with anxious thoughts and often watching the outside get brighter without being able to sleep. No matter how tired I am from work or household chores, thoughts about having a child occupy my mind, preventing me from falling asleep. I managed during the day. Or so I thought. One day, as I stood up when called by my boss, everything went dark and I fainted. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. My head and arms were throbbing with pain.
Oh May, thank goodness! You woke up!
Susan.
You suddenly collapsed at work. Don't try to get up yet. You've hit your head.
I did indeed feel something like gauze on my head. I must have bled from hitting something when I fell. Probably my arm too. Your boss was worried when you didn't wake up and called an ambulance. I'm sorry for causing worry. It's okay. But you know, the doctor said you're not getting enough sleep. Can't sleep? Yeah. I don't know why. Well, you're just tired. Maybe you should take a break from work. I followed Susan's advice. I can't help but think about things even if I'm at home, but it's a problem to suddenly collapse at work and cause trouble for others. So, I decided to take about 10 days off, as I had some paid leave accumulated. But then, the days started to feel very long. I decided to do a thorough cleaning. You should just relax, Susan would say, but being told to suddenly take time off is a problem in its own way. First, I cleaned my room, which I don't usually get around to, and then Michael's. I have a routine for cleaning the common areas of the house as part of my daily chores. But personal spaces tend to get neglected. Michael, too, with his late returns and frequent business trips, hardly ever does a thorough cleaning. So, I quickly finished up my room and started on Michael's. There's a shelf in his room filled with DVDs and CDs. His hobby. After all, what started our marriage was a shared interest. It was a match made through relatives, but I remember being surprised at how well our conversation went when we first met. Thinking back to those times makes me nostalgic. But then, I found something odd. A clear CD case with a homemade-looking label. But the content was a DVD. The shine on its surface was different from a CD. Apparently, it was a homemade burn. The label on the pastel background had some dates printed on it. Feeling an odd sense of foreboding, I decided to watch it. I put it in the player in the living room and pressed play. On the screen was a woman smiling on what looked like a hospital bed. But I was shocked when the camera zoomed out. The woman's belly was big. I sped through the video, with a sense of dread growing inside me. Eventually, the woman in the video was moved to the delivery room. The camera followed her in, and I was taken aback by the angle. It wasn't just showing the upper half of the pregnant woman and the doctors working hard. It was clearly trying to capture the lower half, the actual birth. I slowed the video down out of curiosity for what I hadn't experienced myself. Then I heard a voice amidst the screams of pain, "Michael, honey."
Please hold my hand. Hold it.
Along with the woman's voice, the screen shook and a man's voice chimed in.
You can do it, Emily.
Michael? That voice? What is this? I was frozen, unable to move as the video continued to play. Now that I began to understand what I was seeing, I couldn't fast forward anymore. Soon there was the sound of a baby. Voices of joy from a man and a woman followed, and the camera seemed to pass to someone else, showing the couple lovingly looking at the child. So, this was a childbirth video. That term oddly kept running through my mind. Then suddenly, I heard a loud noise from behind me. Michael, is it him?
Susan!
I hadn't even noticed my mother-in-law right behind me.
May, what is this?
I found it while cleaning Michael's room. Susan looked disbelieving. But in the video before us, her son was laughing heartily with another woman and a child. This wasn't a dream. It was real.
May, for now, put this DVD back where you found it. What?
We need to investigate this. Saying that, Susan hugged me tightly and said, "It'll be okay." After that, I extended my leave and started traveling around. One sunny afternoon, I went to a small park in the neighboring city and approached a woman playing with her child. "Excuse me, are you Amanda Thompson?" Yes. Who are you?" Amanda looked puzzled at the sight of me and the man in a suit. "My name is May Irwin. Actually, it's about your husband."
My husband? Are you the one he's having an affair with? What?
I immediately denied it. Relieved, she invited us to her home. It wasn't appropriate to discuss such matters elsewhere with a small child in tow. The Thompson residence was an apartment near the park.
I'm sorry, I can't offer much hospitality.
No, it's us who should apologize for the sudden visit.
But Amanda, you have suspicions about your husband's affair, don't you?
Yes, I can't really do much about it now, considering my situation. She glanced at her daughter playing in the next room. She's a beautiful little girl.
Yes, very. Then, for your daughter's sake, I'd like to talk to you about your husband. I know who his mistress is.
Really, there is one?
Yes, but this woman was two-timing. What?
Amanda gasped in surprise.
It's hard to believe. I was shocked too. Turns out, my husband's mistress has another man, and she's making my husband believe her child is his. What are you saying?
I then explained to Amanda how I investigated everything. I used my savings from my job to hire a lawyer and a private investigator to look into my husband's mistress. Her name is Emily Young. Michael's colleague and my age. She has a son and returned to work while leaving him at daycare.
My husband was visiting her under the guise of business trips. How about yours?
Indeed, such trips did increase after the child was born.
I had them investigate her place for my husband's affair. That's when we discovered your husband was visiting her too.
Amanda sighed heavily, looking at the photos I spread out.
This is the lawyer I'm currently working with.
The lawyer nodded at her.
Amanda Thompson, I won't ask what you want to do here. But I want to settle things with my husband. So, I'd like to ask for your cooperation.
Cooperation? Yes, I replied. Sometime later, a memorial service was held in this house, inviting all the relatives. It was the 13th anniversary of my husband's grandfather's passing. My husband's grandparents had passed away long before I married into the family, and memorial services were held occasionally at this main house, bringing many relatives together. But, well, maybe this will be the last time, Susan said. From now on, they planned to hold such events more privately. Originally, it seemed it was going to be just our family this time too. But my parents-in-law, especially Susan, changed their plans. I followed Susan's instructions and bustled about. In the room, which had been opened up by removing the sliding doors, we arranged low tables and chairs, ordered food, and after the service, all the relatives gathered in the room. On the long table in the room, we laid out food ordered from a familiar restaurant, along with dishes that Susan and I prepared. As the event was from midday to evening, Some relatives from far away had booked nearby accommodation. So, there were quite a few people enjoying drinks in between. Around the time most had finished eating, Susan stood before the relatives with a smile and said, "Today, there's something I really want all of you to see." As if responding to Susan's words, I quickly set up a projector and screen I had prepared for the day and closed the blackout curtains. "What's this?" Michael and his father looked puzzled. Then, the screen lit up. That pastel-colored title. "What?" Michael exclaimed in shock.
Mom, May, what are you doing?
Ignoring Michael's words, I started playing the edited version of the original DVD, focusing on key scenes where Michael and Emily Sakurai were identifiable. "Hey, isn't that Michael? But why this?" Such murmurs arose from among the relatives. As the screen showed Emily Sakurai thanking Michael with tears, he just slumped to the ground, defeated. "That's all.
I apologize for showing something unpleasant, but this is vital for the announcement about our family's future that I'm about to make. I wanted to share it with everyone."
Susan's voice was firm. Understanding the situation quickly from Michael's reaction and Susan's words, his father asked,
"So, is this child his?"
"No, it's not," I responded. The relatives all buzzed at once. Not just them, but Michael himself too.
"My child, not mine? What do you mean, May?"
At that moment, the sliding doors of the room, now a banquet hall, were opened. All eyes turned there. "It's his child." Yes, it was Amanda who walked in. Behind Amanda, several men and women could be seen. The room, now darkened after the screening, was lit again. But the next room was dark, and it was unclear who was there. "And you are?" Michael's father calmly asked Amanda.
"I'm sorry for the sudden intrusion. I'm Amanda Thompson."
"And this Mrs. Thompson is?"
"Actually, my husband, Nick Thompson, confessed to fathering a child with Emily Young here, pretending to be Michael Irwin."
With that, she and the lawyer she brought with her exposed the two. Michael suddenly stood up and lunged at Emily Young.
"What's this about, you?"
Emily Young looked disgusted and turned away silently.
"There's nothing more to it, Michael."
Michael's father pulled him away from Emily.
"It seems you planned this." "Sorry, dear, you tend to be a bit loose-lipped and you're too soft on Michael." "That's not true." "Well, let us handle this." "Right, Susan and May, go ahead."
Then Michael's father moved towards his wife. Michael tried to stand up, but his father's stern command, "You stay right there," kept him seated. Then, as if on trial, Michael's father seated Emily Young and Nick Thompson in the cleared space. I adjusted the lighting and operated the projector again. This time, edited evidence photos flashed on the screen.
"Ladies and gentlemen, after finding the birth video in Michael's room, I commissioned a private investigator. This is what they found. May, you! Here we have them in the park with a child. On that day, Michael was supposedly on a business trip far away."
I continued as the crowd murmured, glancing at Michael.
"And this lady here, Emily Young, during the investigation, we captured something interesting."
I switched the video.
"Stop!"
Now photos of Emily Young and Nick Thompson entering and leaving a hotel appeared. Different times and places.
"So, I contacted Mrs. Amanda Thompson and asked for her cooperation." "Cooperation?"
"A DNA test.
To determine the father of the child born in the video."
Then the screen changed once more. Displayed were charts and graphs received from the testing agency.
"How did you?"
Emily Young raised her voice.
"How did you get my child's DNA? I mean, without anyone knowing."
She must have noticed the atmosphere changing around her from the two men beside her. Emily Young glared back at me, trembling. I, on the other hand, stayed completely calm.
"Ms. Young, you frequent a particular park, correct?"
"What about it?"
"Didn't people often tell you what a cute baby you have?" "What?" "I had a female investigator from the detective agency collect your child's saliva."
Emily Young's expression changed. Recalling something.
"When you wiped off the drool while holding the baby, right?"
"Ah." Emily collapsed onto the long table, realizing the implication.
And then, I obtained samples from Michael and from Nick Thompson, provided by Amanda. These were sent to the testing agency. This is the result.
The screen showed the probability of each man being the father. While Nick's numbers were significant, Michael's were 0.
But, I already knew that. What? How so? Remember, during our premarital health check, they suggested a detailed examination for you due to the possibility of azoospermia?
Michael fell silent.
Despite my urging, you always dismissed it, saying you were different, too busy. And here are my test results.
The screen showed my results, indicating no issues.
Our inability to have children wasn't because of me.
That was what I wanted to say in front of all the gathered relatives.
Yes, that's right. Michael, you didn't want to face the truth, so you avoided the tests. Mom! I took a long time to conceive you. Your father and I both had issues, albeit minor.
The relatives murmured, remembering.
But we faced our health issues and eventually had you. And what about you? Pretending everything's fine, fathering a child with another woman. Were you satisfied, thinking you had no problems, and planning to divorce May over this?
Susan's stern words left Michael speechless.
I'm fine with a divorce, Susan. I won't accept it. May is already our daughter. I want to stay your daughter too. Right? There's no divorce, okay? Well,
Michael's father pondered.
Susan, how did our son turn out like this? Maybe we spoiled him too much. Divorce would be a reasonable outcome. No! I'm supposed to inherit this house. That's off the table.
Under the brightened lights, Michael's eyes widened.
It's more likely you can't have children. And after what you've done, leaving the inheritance to you would be unwise.
Then, turning to the relatives.
We're considering adopting a formal heir eventually. For now, we'll disown Michael and formally adopt May as our daughter. Father!
Michael slumped, defeated.
The relatives can decide who will be the heir.
Susan declared the gathering over, leaving only the involved parties.
So, lawyer, I'd like you to handle Michael's disownment, May's adoption, and their divorce proceedings. Later, we'll discuss the heir's adoption, but for now, these matters first. Understood.
The lawyer, brought in by Susan, was the family's counsel. Michael seemed to have lost all will to speak.
And for Amanda's divorce case, I'll refer it to a trusted colleague. Rest assured.
Thank you.
Divorce?
Nick reacted, shocked.
What can you do alone? You're just a housewife. With your alimony and child support, I'll manage to raise our daughter. You can be happy with your child with Emily.
Amanda retorted sharply. And you? The lawyer addressed Emily Young calmly.
Why did you do this? Did you not think both May and Amanda could sue you for damages? Me, pay damages?
Emily looked genuinely surprised.
Of course.
As the lawyer nodded affirmatively, Emily Young suddenly descended into chaos, shouting various things in a frenzy.
Then we will discuss this matter elsewhere. Please contact us once you've made a decision.
The lawyer said, taking Emily Young and Nick Thompson away.
Thank you for everything. I couldn't have investigated this far on my own. Don't mention it. It's because of your situation that Michael might learn his lesson. We're in this together. Let's hope for some good news soon.
You too. Amanda replied and then left. I squatted down in front of Michael, who was leaning against a pillar, lost in thought, and said,
This happened because you never took my words seriously from the start.
Michael just hung his head in despair. Afterward, as declared by his father, Michael was disowned and left the house. He rented a small apartment near his workplace and continued working. Although the alimony for me was settled through property division, his savings were nearly depleted. There's also the matter of revoking the recognition of the child he once thought was his. It seems he genuinely loved Emily Young's child. So realizing the child wasn't his must have been a tremendous shock. At work, he became solely focused on his job, reportedly developing an aversion to women. Given that his colleagues knew about his ordeal, his workplace became uncomfortably tense. The rumor of being cuckolded and deceived in such a manner is indeed a dishonorable one for a man. Though the financial impact was less than the other two involved, the emotional toll must be immense. If he quits his job, his father's decision to disown him will likely remain unchanged. In a way, this might be more difficult than being cast away far off. When Michael decided to rent the room, I sent all the CDs and DVDs from his old room, not bothering to include a rack for them. I could easily picture those items remaining in their cardboard boxes or scattered all over the floor, creating a mess. On top of the cardboard boxes, I included the birth video. As a subtle form of revenge. Meanwhile, Emily Young is confronting Nick Thompson, demanding he take responsibility and pay child support. Nick, already obligated to pay alimony and child support to Amanda, refuses to pay for a child he never recognized. For Emily, she faces the challenge of paying damages to both Amanda and me while raising her child alone. Her predicament has become known at her workplace, making her situation incredibly uncomfortable. Her attempts to extract money from the men involved might be seen as either resilience or desperation. "Hello, I'm coming in." "Welcome." Since then, Amanda moved from her previous apartment to a smaller one suitable for a single mother. She found a new job and leaves her child at daycare on workdays. On weekends, she sometimes visits our house. "Oh, what a cutie. Come here." Now my true parents, Susan and her husband, adore her child. Amanda could have returned to her parents' home out of state, but she chose to stay here due to difficulties in finding work and childcare there. Is it too much of a luxury? Not at all. Please, have some tea. In the large garden's shade, Amanda relishes these rare moments of relaxation. For me, dealing with workplace gossip is challenging, so spending time with someone who understands my situation is a relief. There might be future complications with the relatives deciding on an adoptive heir, but for now, peaceful days seem to continue.